And so this COE is recording. People should start piling in now. We're at 83. Let's just give it one more minute. We're at 178 right now.
Okay.
Chris, we're close to 200, and I think any moment you want to.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank all of our participants this morning for joining the Maine Trial Lawyers Association and the Maine Judicial Branch for a presentation on e-file Maine. The Maine Trial Lawyers Association looks forward to having several of these. We know this is a big step for everyone. We're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to learning more about it. We're going to be going through several speakers as a panelist. There's a panel of folks from both the judiciary and the overseers and Tyler Technologies, software company that's responsible for the implementation. And we're going to be having some number of speakers, and at the end we're going to have a question and answer session. During the presentation, we're not going to be having questions. We invite you to ask questions at the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and then we will go through those questions one by one. And we already have a question: is this being recorded for future reference? The answer is yes. So we've already answered one question. I've already broken my own rule saying we weren't going to answer questions during the presentation. So with that, the MTLA would like to thank everyone, panelists and attendees. And I'm going to turn this over to Justice Mead, who's going to give some remarks before we dive into it a little deeper. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning. It's great to see everyone, at least in digital format. In person is always better, but it looks like this is going to be the way it's going to be for the future, at least the near future. So first things first, many thanks to Chris and the Maine Trial Lawyers Association for offering the resources and the platform to help us get this important message out. We are deeply grateful. This is an important message, and we're certainly appreciative of you making the platform available. We're talking about the Odyssey Case Management System and the e-filing component, the CMS. This project has been years in the planning, and it is right on the verge of going live. Our shakedown cruise is right around the corner. It is scheduled to go live in Bangor in October for limited case types. E-filing will be mandatory for lawyers unless they're exempted for those case types in Bangor for the near future. And this morning's presentations will sort of explain what's involved with that, with the big picture and overview. I know there's apprehension in some quarters, and I hope that today's presentation will help resolve some of those fears and apprehensions. The bottom line is this: if you can use e-filing and video conferencing, you can handle the CMS. Also mention something else that will be mentioned during the presentations, which is there will be detailed hands-on training for using Odyssey presented by representatives from Tyler, who are education professionals. This is what they do. So this will not start with anyone not aware of how to use it and what to do. The backstory on this, I know many of you practice in federal court and you're familiar with the e-filing process they have over there. And for years, you have asked us, why haven't we implemented it? So it's been a huge, detailed process involving lots and lots of people, but it's here. And our CMS is going to offer unprecedented access to court files. You will have complete access online to everything you need to be involved with. There will be extended access with a product called Research. It's also Tyler Technologies project. And we expect that to be available shortly after the go-live process is completed in Bangor. We'll hear more about that in just a moment. But we know this, wherever e-filing and electronic case management has been implemented, lawyers agree it is a better system. And there's a learning curve, as I said, but if you can manage email and video conferencing, you can imagine e-filing. We've assembled some of the key players who are involved in the development of the system. They'll provide a detailed overview of how the system works. And as Chris already mentioned, there will be a Q&A session after the presentation. We'll be happy to answer those questions at that time. I guess Chris will be fielding those questions and serving them up to us. So before we get started, I just want to mention one off-agenda item that does bear mentioning. As you know, in the COVID era, we can't conduct courtroom proceedings as we have in the past. Courtrooms and courthouses are classic examples of situations where people are crammed into closed spaces for extended periods of time, occasionally with less than adequate ventilation. Our only tool to address backlogs in the current flow is remote video court proceedings, Zoom. So we have started an initiative in August, switching from our previous platform, which was Google Meet, to Zoom. Our goal is that every judge and clerk will be licensed, trained, and capable of hosting with Zoom. So that plan is underway. Video will be the default for court proceedings. If they can't be accomplished by video, then they'll be done in person. So how long will that be in place? It's hard to say. Certainly for the near future, and we may find when all is said and done that many of the innovations we've been required to make, we've decided were good innovations. They may stay on board. So I'm going to take a back seat now, and I'm going to hand off to our panel of experts. I'm going to hand off specifically to Chris Oberg. His official title is Manager of Application Development and Implementation. It's a big phrase for saying he's in charge of all things Odyssey. He is the hub of a very large wheel consisting of a large group of very talented and capable people, and I thank them for all their efforts. Chris, over to you.
Justice Mead, thank you for the opening remarks and in kind words. You know, just to get things started today, I wanted to quickly go through the agenda with you to tee you up on the important communication that we have to share with you today. So, starting with the fall implementation. Beth Mattis, who is our Director of Court Operations, is going to be talking to you about the nuts and bolts of when we say fall implementation, what are we implementing, when are we implementing it, and what does it mean to you? And so Beth's going to talk to you and share those important details with you. Following that, we have Aria E. is joining us from the Maine Board of Overseers, and she wants to make sure that we understand a little bit about some of the obligations that are associated with electronic filing. At that point, we will turn things over to Will Richardson. Will is a project manager with Tyler Technologies and working extensively with us to make sure that we get our e-filing platform out, get it ready, and make sure that it's ready to go. Will is going to not only talk to you about what our eFile Maine platform looks like, but also give you a demonstration and try to give you a sense for what it looks like and what it's going to mean to you going forward. At that point, we'll turn things over to Jonathan Huntington. He is our manager of legal process. And Jonathan is going to give you an update on the new rules of electronic court systems, also known as RECS. and talk to you about a little bit about what those are, what they represent, and what some of the next steps are. Lastly, we will turn things over to Dave Packard, who is our Chief Information Officer. And Dave is going to talk to you about some of the tools that we have available for you to access your electronic case information. So, you know, we're spending an awful lot of time talking about how to electronically file into the cases, but really now trying to answer the question, how do you get access to that information online once it's part of the electronic case? So a couple of tools here that Dave's going to talk to you about and share with you. After that, we will move into a question and answer period. And it really comes, but before I turn things over to Beth, I just want to, before I turn things over to Beth, I apologize, my pause was some feedback there. Want to talk to you about some housekeeping items, and primarily the question of how are we going to get the answers you need to your important questions, and understanding that yes, everybody is on mute today, and if you have a question, we are asking you to submit it through the question and answer feature of Zoom. We will pause to try to answer those questions, but at the end of the day, if we don't get to it, just know that we are going to take a copy of that question log, and we will make sure that we draft a response, and we work with Chris and Stephen to make sure that we get responses published so that you can see them. Last but not least, we've set up a new email called ecourtshelp@courts.maine.gov. And the reason for that is this email is meant to be our support mechanism. So any question, when you get back to your office and you're thinking, oh, geez, I should ask that question, or you have a follow-up, email us with that email address. We're here. We want to help you. And it doesn't matter if it's a question regarding process or electronic filing or whatever you may have. That's why this email is there, and we encourage you to use it. That being said, I'm going to turn things over to Beth, who's now going to give you some of the mechanics on what the fall implementation is going to look like. So Beth, at this point, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Chris. So beginning October 5th, 2020, in the Superior Court in Penobscot County and in Bangor District Court, as well as the Business and Consumer Docket, we will begin accepting e-filing in most civil matters. These include family matters, child protection, small claims, FEDs, foreclosures, and other civil matters except for civil violations. Civil violations and criminal cases, protection orders will go live next spring. And the reason that those cases are not going live in the fall is because they involve an integration with the Department of Public Safety, which is a little more complicated, and we needed a little more time to get those two systems talking to each other. So the cases that we're going live with this fall are ones that do not have that integration with public safety regarding bail and warrants and protection orders. So next slide. So what's going to happen is September 27th, MEGIS, which is our current case management system, is going to be cut off for Bangor for the dockets that I just described. And during that week, we're going to be transferring everything from MEGIS into Odyssey. And that I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide. So everything in MEGIS is being electronically converted into Odyssey. What we'll see in Odyssey from MEGIS is the docket record, what we're going to be calling a registry of action. And that's the description of everything that's in the paper file. For cases that are pending and started out as paper files, we'll be scanning all of the documents of the file into Odyssey so that any pending case in Bangor or the BCD will be available in Odyssey as a digital file. I'm sorry, I kind of skipped around. Chris, can you go back to the previous slide now? So e-filing will be mandatory for attorneys and anyone that files more than 6 emergency cases per year. We're going to hear a little bit more about what e-filing looks like, and you're going to have lots of opportunities over the next month to have training on File and Serve, which is the platform you'll use for your e-filing. Unrepresented parties may choose to e-file, but they're not required to do so. I don't think that File and Serve is any harder than, as Justice Meade said, ordering something from Amazon. But obviously there are people who would prefer to file in paper, and they'll have that opportunity. And then next spring, we will bring on the rest of the case types that we're not going live this fall. And those are the ones, as I said, that involve communication with the Department of Public Safety. Okay, next slide. Right now, we're already started a scanning effort so that we will have all of the things that are pending in paper into Odyssey, and that we'll have a chance to do all that transfer in the 1 week we have between September 27th and October 5th. The judge will have something on the bench called Judge Edition, and it will be a monitor which the judge can adjust it to the height that the judge is comfortable so that eye contact is still possible with the parties. But on that Judge Edition on their computer will be something that replicates the paper file. Every pleading that's in the paper file will be easily accessed by the judge. We can rearrange the order that people are heard, that their cases are heard. It's designed very much to replicate the paper world, but it's on the computer. The clerks will be in the courtroom processing and docketing the cases, and it is hoped that docketing is going to be very current moving forward, because everything will be docketed in the courtroom. In fact, a case could be docketed and the parties go to the window and have the clerk at the window print out the order from what just occurred in court if there was an order already. Court forms are being updated. Some of you may have our court forms saved on your hard drive, forms that you use quite often. I would suggest that everyone make an effort to constantly be looking at our website, and before you use the form that's saved on your hard drive, look at the website to see if it's been updated. All of the court forms say the revision date on the website, so it's pretty easy to tell whether or not you're using the most recent one. But this is an example of what a form will look like in Odyssey. It's a little bit different than what you're used to. Next slide. So some of the docket numbers are going to look pretty much like what you're used to, but there's a few changes. Rather than the Superior Court docket number reflecting the town that the Superior Court is in, it's going to reflect the county. So Penobscot Superior Court would be PENSC rather than BANSC. And we're going to 3-character abbreviations for the case type in the docket number. And what that allows us to do is separate things out a little bit more. Currently, there's a lot of different things under FM cases. We're going to break out a lot of those. For instance, divorce with children will be DWC. Parentage will be PAR. So it will be easier to see from the docket number what type of case it is. And we're going to post a list of the new docket case type abbreviations on the website as soon as possible. And now I would like to introduce Aria E., who is the Executive Director of the Board of Overseers of the Bar.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you all for having me. So I'm going to just do the hit and run version of your ethical obligations in e-filing. One of the things that the rules already require of you is competence and diligence and appropriate supervision. And so those are really the primary themes when you talk about undertaking the new process of e-filing. And of course, why do we care? We care because we want to get it right. And like Beth just said, one of the ways to get it right is to constantly check or diligently check the court's website, or perhaps constantly is better, Beth, I think I'll steal your word, to ensure that you know the rules, you know when the rollout is. It's a good idea, obviously, to get your training early and to use the appropriate forms. And for all the reasons you can imagine, there's a lot that could go wrong, and you don't want that happening on your watch. For the primary themes that are involved with e-filing, if you think about rules, the competence and diligence rules, under the Maine professional rules of conduct, the competent representation requires the legal knowledge, the skill, the thoroughness, and preparation reasonably necessary for the representation. And although we have not, our court and our rules have not adopted the comments to the ABA model rule, it is instructive when we're particularly thinking about technology. And so there's a comment to the ABA model rule. The model rule and Maine's rule on competence are the same, but I really appreciate and try to educate lawyers about the comment that's included with the ABA model rule, which essentially says to maintain the requisite knowledge and skill, a lawyer should keep abreast of changes in the law and its practice, including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology. So gone are the days that lawyers can say, Aria, I'm punching my ticket, I'm out of here. I'm not gonna participate in being a lawyer anymore if you people are gonna force me to do filing. If you're gonna be practicing in Penobscot County starting in October, keep your ticket. We want you representing lots of people in Penobscot County and understanding how easy this process can be for you. One of the other important measures, and thank you, Paul Chaikin, for this reminder so that I can instruct your colleagues, is to ensure that your proxies are aware of what your passwords are, how you've loaded your e-filing account into your system, and not just your proxies, but also any support staff that you are using or relying on to help you. And as I said, help you, because I still want you to be conversant in this e-filing system and not totally give up the providence of utilizing that system to a staff member, because as the supervision rules in the 5.1 through 5.3 of our rules of professional conduct advise you, we're all still responsible for what our legal staff are doing with us and for us. And so please bring them up to speed and have, I know there's perhaps several staff members working in law offices. Thanks y'all for joining us with with the attorneys you are assisting, so that it is a smooth process. And it's only going to achieve greater success for your clients if you work a little harder to learn these methods, to be aware of metadata. The rules were just adopted. I think that's right. I think I saw that come out through the court system. So yeah, so the rules have now been adopted. When I was talking before, I was calling them proposed rules, but be particularly aware, and I think Jonathan's going to cover this, of Rule 4E and Rule 38, which put the onus on you as the attorney to ensure that certain information is not included in the filing. And I think Jonathan's going to cover that, or David, about the metadata software that apparently is going to be embedded with the e-filing system. So that makes me feel better, because my speech normally to lawyers is beware of metadata. If you don't know what metadata is, it's the peripheral information that's embedded within a document that is not seen. But a lot of lawyers do know how to mine for that. And according to our ethics rules and the professional ethics opinions that are that govern here in Maine, you should not be mining for it. The flip side of that is sending attorneys, or filing attorneys in this instance, you should be aware of how to remove metadata and the non-public information from your filings, because the court's not going to do that for you. Lastly, I want to say there's a lot of great tutorials out there for using any kind of technology, particularly now where everybody's Zooming. And of course, I always think of the Aretha Franklin song, Am I Dating Myself? Who's Zooming who? But we're all Zooming, and we're all Zooming each other, and we're taking up time on all the fiber optics in the world. But It's a great way for us to get together. We have almost 300 people participating today. And so it's lovely to be a part of this. And don't forget, you can always hit us up on the ethics helpline. Julia Sheridan has now joined our office. Woo! So we have 4 attorneys ready to serve your needs on the ethics helpline Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and every other day if it's an emergency. So go out and be your best, and please ask any questions, and I'll try to answer what I can. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Aria. Just a couple of quick things before we dive into the content of this slide. Aria, you mentioned metadata and software that the courts were purchasing or integrating, and I just wanted to take a moment and clarify that. Aria's absolutely right. The courts have recognized the great concerns about the security and safety of data. And so what we have done is we've worked with Tyler Technologies to acquire a very sophisticated redaction software platform. And so really what that means is when you're going in and you're going to electronically file and you enter some data and you upload your document, at the point when you get ready to file that with the court, it will do a check of your document to see if it can find any potential data elements that you may want to redact. So it's intelligent enough to look for things and algorithms like social security numbers and dates of birth and addresses. And when you submit it, it's going to kick it back and say, hey, we think you might want to look at this sensitive data. So that will also be a feature of the electronic filing. It will not be part of today's demo because we are actively working to get that installed and configured, but just know that that is coming, and that'll be a tool that's available for you to take advantage of when you do electronically file. The other point that I wanted to make too is that throughout this presentation we've got we reference email addresses, and we're going to reference some URLs and site addresses, and those are pretty important. And I just wanted to tell you that we are going, a copy of this presentation will be shared. So, if we're buzzing through here and we happen to skip or glaze over and you don't get a chance to write one down, don't worry about it. We're going to send it to you. And the reason I wanted to make reference to that is because this eFile Maine site, the one that Will Richardson here is going to show you in just a moment to give you a demo of, is probably the most important site of all of this presentation. And I say that because that is really when anytime you want to electronically file with the courts, you want to be thinking eFile Maine. And you can Google that, and that our Google, it will come up. But really, eFile Maine is the platform that we worked with Tyler to develop for everything you would need to electronically file. And again, that'll come up with Google. Will's going to show you a presentation on it in here in just a moment. Related to that, when you go to that eFile portal, there's going to be a place in there when you can click on to get started and actually move into the electronic filing. While Will is going to give you a high-level demo on that, we actually have worked with Tyler to pull together some trainings. And so the trainings that you're seeing there, 12 of them start as soon as next week and then are going to run through the middle of October. These are the actual trainings on how to set up a user account, how to get into the system, how electronically file. So these are trainings that you do not want to miss. We have them posted on our eCourts site, which there's a link there for. Again, if you Google Maine eCourts, that'll pop up. But we do want you to register. The good news is that this doesn't mean you have to attend all 12 trainings. These are just attend one training. It's an hour and a half. And know that you're not alone. These are trainings that are done by Tyler. And you heard Justice Mead talk about how they're educators. And that's right, they are educators. They've done this a lot. In fact, if my math is right, their customer footprint for the country is 1/3 of where they have implementations and are electronically filing. So we're not alone. So just know they've done this, they've done it a lot, and it should be a very good experience for us. So the one key message here today is remember eFile Maine, one-stop shop for everything for electronic filing, and be sure to check out the Maine eCourt site so that you can get registered for some of the upcoming training events. That being said, Will, I want to turn things over to you who's going to talk to you about the overview of the eFile Maine portal, the electronic filing system, and what some of the next steps and expectations are. So we're going to take a brief pause while we do a quick screen switch. And Will, I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, you're on mute, Will. So while Will is coming online, I did just want to tell you another feature of that redaction software is that when you go to hit submit on a document, it's going to function a lot like Google or your email system, so that when your email system is, at least most of them are intelligent enough that when you're sending an email and you use words that describe like you're attaching a document, but you don't attach that document, you'll get a message that says, hey, did you mean to attach something here? The redaction software is going to work the same way, and it's going to say, hey, did you mean to redact this information or not? Will, are you still with us?
Will, you're on mute again.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. I'm the one representing the technology company, and I can't get my Zoom to work this morning. So let's see. We're going to share my screen, and all right. Can everyone see the eFile Maine overview slide? Perfect.
Yes.
All right, so this morning I wanted to give you an overview of the product, what it will offer for the Maine courts moving forward, and then I'll give you a demonstration of the product as well. So on this slide, this is some similar information from what Beth had shared earlier in the presentation regarding kind of the rollout of the product across the state. And so eventually it will be available statewide, but we're going in a phased approach over 5 go lives. So in the fall, in about a month now, it will be the Bangor courts and business consumer courts statewide. Phase 2 will compose of the rest of Region 5, and that will also include criminal filings. And then we'll have 3 more phases eventually that will be determined later when those rollouts will be. To give you an idea of how the e-filing process works, I wanted to show you a workflow picture version of it, and then I will show you as well kind of an example of, say I'm filing a divorce case. What does that look like step by step? And then we'll go into the e-filing platform to show you what that looks like. So the filing process begins with your filer submission. And so eFile Maine will be available 24/7 for you to access, submit your filings. This is a great benefit for especially times such as coronavirus, where we're trying to minimize public contact. And so this is just another way you can do that and accomplish that. Once you submit your filing, it will go into what we call the review queue at the court. And so then the court will have the opportunity to review your filing. And if for any reason there was a need for a return, they would send you a return notification, which would basically give you a reason of, this was filed into the wrong location, or the filing fees may be incorrect, something of that nature. And so you would receive a notification from the court for revision. When the court accepts the filing, that's when your payment would be processed. So say it's a $300 filing fee, that's when the payment would be deducted from your credit card. Not when you submit it, but when it's actually accepted by the court. Additionally, if there's e-service, an optional e-service involved, that's when the email notification would go out for that. And then at the point of acceptance is also when the court records would be updated. So formerly Megis, it would be Odyssey being updated so that then the court can move forward with docketing and scheduling. An example of this e-filing process, there's really 5 steps to e-file, and one of them is optional, and so you can really do it in 4 steps. There's some prerequisites to beginning the e-filing, using the e-filing portal. The first step is, registering an account and getting your user account set up. This will initiate with setting up a user as a firm admin at your firm. And so this user would basically have super access, and they'll be able to send out email invitations to the rest of the firm, so you all can share payment accounts, service contacts, those sorts of items. You can create templates, those sorts of things to share amongst the firm. So once you're able to register for your account, that's when you would set up your payment methods. So that would be credit cards, e-checks, and if you have a waiver as well, you can also set those up. Step 1 of the filing process is, we'll take a divorce case, for example. In October, it would be, the Bangor District Court would be your location. So you would select that as your location. Case category would be family. And then the case type would be, divorce, no children. You would also select the filing attorney. So staff can file for an attorney and select the attorney name in the firm dropdown. And you would also select your payment account information. Step 2 would compose of your party information. And so there's required parties for each case type. And so you would go through the fields and fill out, say it's plaintiff and defendant as the required parties. If you have any additional parties, you can also add them at this point as well, and any contact information that's needed for the case. Step 3 is your filing information. So that would be your filing code. Your filing code really just means your petition, motion, those items is what you would select at this point. And then you would attach the related documents as well associated with those filing codes. Step 4 is an optional step where you can electronically serve contacts via an email address. And step 5 would be basically your checkout screen where you can see a summary of where you're filing into, the data you've inputted, the documents you've attached, just to verify all that information is correct before you submit it to the court for review. Big question we get, and a reasonable one at that, is how much will this cost, and will it be different from filing over the counter today at the court? And so for eFile Maine, we have really 3 methods. So there, if you have a waiver, it wouldn't cost any as it would today. One method you have is paying with a card. And so say it's a $300 filing fee, this filing fee will stay the same on eFile Maine. The state of Maine is elected to pay for the software, and so a lot of states pass the filing fee, the use fee, onto the filing community, and so that would be an additional assessment. But in the state of Maine, you wouldn't have anything additional. You would have a credit card fee assessed. So in Maine, it is 2.89%. So if you choose to use a credit card, it would add that additional fee on. So in this instance, it'd be $867. So $308.67 would be your total e-filing fee. So really the only difference is just that credit card fee. The other instance is you have the option for an e-check. And so what an e-check is you can input your account and routing number for a bank account, and you would basically pay directly from your bank account. You have, again, a filing fee of $300, a no e-filing use fee, and then an e-check would cost 25 cents, and that's a flat rate regardless of what the filing fee is, and so it's 25 cents every time. So in this instance, it would be 325. To give you an idea of what the court will see once they are processing your filings, I won't show this in the presentation and the demonstration, so I'll just give you a snapshot of what that looks like. On the top left, you have a list of all the filings that the attorney submitted, and so the filer or the reviewer will be able to go through and one by one review those different documents. They have the case information on the left as well, so where the filing was submitted to, so location, case category, case type, a line-by-line breakdown of the fees associated with the filing, and then in the middle of the screen is where they actually do the review process. They can make highlights if they need to put any underlines or lines for signatures. Say they need to forward it to a judge for signature, they can do that at this point. And then this is where they would either accept or return your filing. To give you all a heads up of just some trends we've noticed nationwide of reasons for returns, two of the big ones that we've seen across the country have been incorrect case number or location, and then a faulty document. And so what I mean by that is, if you have an incorrect case number, that could mean that there's a mismatch between the case number that's on your actual filing documents and then what the case management system is sending back. And so that would be, filing into an existing case, and it may just be an incorrect case number on that filing. So just double checking that those are matching appropriately. Another common reason for this same return is if you're filing into the wrong court. And so just making sure that you have the right location selected when you begin your filing. Another common reason for return is a faulty document. And so really that just means it's either illegible or it's been improperly scanned so that the court cannot read it appropriately to be able to discern what it says. And so at Tyler, we recommend setting your scanners to 300 DPI, and that will give you enough clarity, legibility on that document so that the court can read it and process your filing. But it also is low enough so that you can submit a pretty large filing through eFile Maine. Our default for our maximum for filings are 35 megabyte, and Maine is actually going to set it to 50. But with 35, we've actually been able to send filings through upwards of 3,000 pages with this setting. And so you should have plenty of space to submit even your largest filings. As Chris had mentioned, eFileMaine.gov is really going to be your one-stop shop for all things e-filing in your state. This is going to have general information on which courts are going to be accepting e-filing at various dates. You'll have training opportunities. We're working on recording one of the sessions so that it will be available at any point as well. We'll have those 12 live webinars starting I believe next week for the filing community to be able to register, and that will be a really deep dive on how to set up your user account, your payment information, and really all the nuts and bolts involved with eFile Maine. There's a substantial FAQ page on this page as well, and then there's a link at the bottom where you can get started. And so at this point, I'd like to just share a couple of next steps, and then we'll log into the eFile Maine site to show you what all is available from there. For next steps, really you'll want to review the statewide rules and procedures. So that would be RECs, just to ensure you know the proper legislation around e-filing. You'll want to register your firm on eFile Maine, and so I mentioned before, you'll want to select someone from your firm to be the firm admin, and so they would basically have the ability to send out an invitation, email invitation to the rest of your firm, so that you all can share service contacts, templates for filings, payment information, those sorts of items. It makes it just a more seamless experience with the product. And then you'll also want to just begin exercising the system to become better acquainted. And so before October 5th, that initial go live, you'll have the opportunity to go in and set up your firm, set up payment information, and then you can also attend the trainings to get more comfortable with the product.
Will, while you're bringing up the eFile Maine site, I just wanted to, do you have any recommendation? Should folks generally wait until after they've attended one of these training sessions before setting up their firm and payment accounts in the system?
I would recommend that. Yes, that's probably the best option. It's pretty simple to. I'm sorry, I'm getting some. Is my screen working okay?
Yes.
Glitching a little bit on my end. Yeah, so I would recommend attending one of those webinars first, just to make sure that you you know what you're doing. You log in, but it is pretty straightforward. You know, if you've set up an account on Amazon before, or you know, eBay, it's pretty similar to that, similar information, and so. I think most people can jump right in and start registering, but you do have those webinars that you can attend first as well.
Great.
All right, and can you see my browser screen now as well? Perfect. Okay, so when you log into efilemaine.gov or go to the URL, there's no login for the screen. This will be your landing page, and so you will have a list of various pages that you can go to. You'll have courts accepting e-filings, and so you'll want to go onto this screen for just seeing what courts are available. So we have this broken down by region and county. If they're highlighted, then that will be a court that has an upcoming go live, and so this is the Bangor courts highlighted. Back on the home page, you'll also be able to find information on self-represented filers, so they'll be able to go onto our guide and file platform from here, which is basically a guided method of e-filing that they can use as well. We have training resources, so this is where you would get access to registering for webinars and any other upcoming trainings that may be available in the state. We have Search and Pay. This is our access to our portal product. So if we're paying ticket citations, that will be also another method that you can go to. Technical support will be actually the Tyler support team, and you know, email address, phone number, those sorts of items. You'll want to contact us if you have specific product issues or you're getting errors, things like that. But if you're having more of a business process question, then that would be, you know, when you would want to contact the eCourts email address that Chris had mentioned earlier. And that address is also at the bottom under contact. And we have our FAQ page that you can go on, especially when you're just getting started with e-filing, to maybe get some of your initial questions answered. So this usually shows get started, but I don't know why it's not loading this morning. But once you click get started, it will send you to the File and Serve product page where you can sign in and register. We're still in the process of building out the main final site. And so it will look a little bit different if you log in the next week or so, but then it will look like this, which is the California site. It will look very similar to this come go live. And so we'll use this site for demonstration purposes, just because it is more built out and it is their live site. And so I won't submit anything to the court. I don't think they'll appreciate that. So we'll use this site for you know, walking through a registration process and then an initial filing. So up at the top right, you've got your sign in, register, and I forgot my password options. So, you know, pretty basic features that you would see in many other websites like Amazon or other commonly used sites. On this main part of the screen, The state may give updates on, upcoming courts that will be live in e-filing, any legislation, those sorts of items. They may choose to input it on this screen. And so this is always an important screen to go to before logging in. Right now, I'll just go to the register page, just to give you an idea of what we'll be asking for registering your account. And so the firm admin will want to walk through this, and then once they're all set up, then they can send an email that will shorten the process a little bit for the rest of the attorneys. We want to select firm, and it will ask for basic information such as first and last name, email address, and password. Once you've inputted this information, then we'll ask for firm information, so that what's your firm name, address, those sorts of items before setting up your account. Once you've input this information, then it will send you an email notification as a formal invite into the site, and so then you'll log in and you'll be able to move forward from there. So what I'll do now is I'll go back to the main page, and we'll log in. We'll click sign in, and again, it just asks for your email and password that you registered with. And this will be your main dashboard for eFile Maine. And so you'll have these 6 same boxes that California does. It will be start filing, and so this is where you'd either start your filing or file into an existing case that's in the Odyssey platform for the state. Filing history will list out any filings that you'd submitted in the past, and so it'll be just a quick reference to any of your previously submitted envelopes. And when I say envelope, that basically means a unique filing submission for that case. And so one case may have multiple envelopes associated with it, and then within those envelopes, there may be multiple filings, attachments within that envelope. So this is where you would list your filing history. Your drafts would be any filings that you began either for a new case or an existing case, and you may have just not finished it, and so you can save it for later submission. Case search is a nice feature where if you know the case number of a particular case that you want to file into, then you can search through our case search feature. This isn't a general query of the database, so it wouldn't let you browse case numbers and case information for security purposes. And so if you have that exact case number, you're able to view to file into that case. Bookmarks are if you have a particular case that you're interested in, or you're just wanting to keep track of what's being filed into it, you can bookmark a filing as well from here, and that will list all your bookmarked cases. And then envelopes, or excuse me, templates are basically a firm shared opportunity for your firm to set up. Say it's a very similar filing that your court process or your firm processes on a weekly basis, and so you can set up a template that auto populates location, case type, that sort of information, so that the filing process is a little bit more efficient for your staff. So at the top, we also have some options for contacting support. And so if you have a problem with the application or just a technical problem with e-filing in general, we have our support contact information from here. And then if you have just feedback on the product, if you have a feature request or if you have a suggestion, we always appreciate that feedback as well. And so you'll have that option here. You have a drop down right here that will show your e-file home link, and then eventually this will also show your research link as well, which David will mention later. On this top left, you have this little hamburger button that will give you a few additional options, particularly for the firm admin, adding additional users or attorneys. If you need any additional payment accounts added, you can do all that from here. You can add additional firm service contacts, and there's general account settings that you can modify from here as well. So at this point, I'd like to begin a new filing, just to give you an idea of what the product will offer you for filing electronic filing. this will be a fairly high level of what the capabilities are, and so I highly encourage everyone to attend one of the webinars that will go much more in depth on each of these items. So for this instance, I'm going to start a new case. The first tab that you get to is the Documents tab, which will basically give you an opportunity, your first opportunity, to upload your documents. And so the nice thing about this is that if you have a particularly large document, you can upload it, and you actually don't have to wait for it to finish loading before proceeding with the rest of the filing information. So this document, my scanned divorce petition with signatures, is a document that I previously uploaded but chose not to use in another filing, and so it's actually saved it for me so I can reference it later, and so I'll use it for this filing. You'll click Browse if you want to add any additional documents, and so I've selected another document from my folder, and it uploaded quickly here. It will show your maximum file size. 50 meg is what California is set to, and that's also what the state of Maine will be set to as well. One item to note is that it must be a PDF format. It doesn't necessarily have to be text readable PDF, but it just has to be in a PDF format to submit electronically. When I feel good about what I've initially attached to the filing, I'm going to click Case Information. Case information is where I'm going to select my location, case category, and case type. And so this is that step one in the example I showed earlier. Location will be, in October, will be, Bangor District, Penobscot Superior, and then Business Consumer Court. And so those will be your options. For this instance, I'm going to select Butte Civil in California. When I've selected that option, it'll give me a filtered list of what's available in that location. So I'm going to select Civil Small Claims, and then case type will be driven by that case category, and so it will then filter it by whichever category I selected. All right. And so once I feel good about my case information, I'm going to select Parties. And this will be step 2 in that example e-filing. In this particular case type, there are 2 required parties, and so it populates defendant and plaintiff as the required party information. And so I'm going to enter defendant information, and you'll just fill out whatever is required at minimum, so the required fields. You can also fill out address. Any additional identifiers such as date of birth would go into that tab as well. Once I feel good about defendant, fill out the plaintiff. If there's any additional parties, I can also add them here. If there's a minor or any other additional parties that we want to add into this case, we can click that here. When I feel good about my party information, I'm going to select Filings. And this is where we actually attach our documents. And so previously I uploaded some, and so from here I'll be able to select from those items which ones I want to actually attach to the filing. Filing type, we're going to just do e-file only. And most initial filings, a lot of initial filings usually just have file only. Then you'll select your filing code. So this is where you would find motion, notice, proposed order, those sorts of items. And so you'll select, I'm going to select notice for this demonstration. Filing description, if you want to add any additional description to this filing code, if notice isn't specific enough, for example, you can add some additional detail for this item. Client reference number is really for firm's internal use, and so if you have a separate tracking method for your cases, you can always input that information here for your firm's reference. And then if you have any additional comments to the court, you can add that in this box as well. Optional services will be a feature. It looks like they don't have any for this case type, but this would be where you would have copies, charge for copies, those sorts of items where you can have as drop downs, and you can select those additional for a price. And then communication tab is where you'll have your courtesy copies. So if you may be a staff member of a firm and your attorney wants to be notified of this particular filing, you can add in their email address here, and they would also get notifications on the filing. So down at the bottom, I'm going to upload my document. And so lead document is essentially the required document for that filing type. So I'm going to attach my scanned divorce petition. And you'll just select the arrow and it will drag it over for you. If I'd forgotten a document that, that I didn't previously upload, I have the opportunity to upload additional documents here at this point. When I select save, it's going to attach the document to the filing. And here I'll also have the opportunity to select security. And so depending on how the state of Maine has this set up, it may just be a couple of options such as, public or private, public confidential, contain social security numbers or not, those sorts of options. Looks like California has 9 different options. And so we'll do straight file public for this security. If you have any additional attachments, you can also attach them separately. So this is the lead document, but if you have any additional attachments, you can always add another filing from here. Let me go ahead and skip to the fees section. And this is where I would select my payment account, the filing attorney associated with this case, and then the party that's responsible for the fees that I've selected. So I'm going to find a credit card, and I'll select my filing attorney. So this will be a list managed by your firm. I'll select my filing attorney, and then I'll select the party responsible for fees. At this point, I'm going to select calculate fees, which will give me a line-by-line breakdown of the different fees involved with this case. And so it'll have your case initiation fee. So whatever that may be for that particular case in Maine, in my earlier example, it may be $300. That'll show your subtotal. Service fees, that will include your credit card convenience fee. And it will also have a line-by-line item of optional services, if you needed copies, things like that would also show as a breakdown with your grand total at the bottom. When I feel good about this information, then I'll select summary. Summary is basically your checkout screen on Amazon where you're able to review all the information you've inputted previously. If you need to make any modifications, you can always go back to the previous tabs. This first option you have are unused documents. And so eFile Maine is basically going to give you the option of what do you want to do with any of these documents that you didn't attach to the filing. So you can attach them at this point. You can keep them for later use, and so they would just appear again at that document screen when initiating another filing. Or you can delete the documents from your account, and so you just have to re-upload in the future if you chose that. So for this instance, I'm just going to keep that document. Now you have a breakdown of all the data that you've inputted so far. So case information, parties, filings. If you have any service contacts that you've added in, that would go here. And then your fees. And so it gives you, again, that itemized breakdown line by line of all the fees that you've selected. When I feel good about this, I'm going to select submit. And as I said, this is a live environment for California, so I won't actually submit this filing. But once you select submit, what it will do is it will generate an envelope number, and we'll go back to the home page. And what you'll have then is that envelope number appear under your filing history. Your filing history will also be useful for tracking whether or not the court has begun to review the filing yet. So it will say submitted once you've initially submitted your filing. Then it will update to under review once a clerk has opened the filing and has begun to review it. And then once it's been accepted, then it will say accepted, and it will generate your case number from Odyssey, and then input the case number on your eFile Maine account for future reference. Once you've submitted the filing, you also get an email notification that it's been submitted. And then when you have either an accepted notification or a return notification, those will also come in an email as well that will give you a link back into the eFile Maine site. And with that, that is my demonstration for eFile Maine. So I'd like to hand it back to Chris for the rest of the demonstration.
Okay, thank you, Will. Okay, should be back on my presentation. Just a couple of quick things before we turn things over to Jonathan Huntington, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the Rex rules. Is that you know, what you just saw was a high-level demonstration of the more detailed training that's going to come up. So again, you know, the message here is make sure you visit Maine eCourts. Look at the available training dates and get your firm and your colleagues registered for the upcoming trainings. A couple of quick things that we had heard from past presentations, questions that have come up. Yeah, there were two big ones that I just wanted to mention, and one was, you know, Will, you demonstrated how you can go online and load the data, upload the documents. But when it came time for a payment card, there is going to be a payment type of waiver that will allow. So if you're filing, you know, if you're filing an application to proceed without fees or something of that nature, you will have that option available to you. The other thing that I wanted to mention too is, Will, you mentioned document security. So as part of that filing, and you've uploaded your documents, the question is, you know, there's an option there for you to select, you know, what the security is of that document. And so I just want to mention that security on that document is going to tie to the Rex rules. So if the document has any data that's non-public according to Rex, the option will either be non-public as a selection type or public. And that ties back into what Beth was talking about earlier when she showed you the updates to the court forms. You know, one of the updates is on the court forms, all of the non-public forms, all of the forms that contain non-public data according to Rex, we've put a header right there on the form to take the guesswork out of it for you. But that, in addition to the redaction software, is going to go a long way, we feel, on the security as well. Not to mention that that's not where it ends. Clerks, when the filings come in, are going to do another redaction review to make sure that nothing has been missed. So I just wanted to share that information and get that out there in case you might be wondering. But at this point in time, I'm going to turn things over to Jonathan, who's going to talk to you in more detail about Rex rules and some of the next steps. Jonathan.
Thanks, Chris. Can you hear me all right? Great. So yeah, I'm Jonathan Huntington. I'm legal process manager for the judicial branch. I've been working about 2 years here at the JB, and I'm working with the team here and elsewhere on the electronic court project and Odyssey implementation. But in an earlier incarnation, I was a lawyer practicing in the courts in Maine for a number of years that I don't care to disclose. And speaking from that background, with my familiarity with the Tyler products and the technology that we're launching very, very soon, I really believe that you will rapidly come to like the new system. And you'll appreciate the convenience, the speed, the efficiency of electronic filing. As Justice Mead summarized it earlier, it is a better system. So it's something to look forward to. What is Rex? So that's what I'm talking about. Rex, the rules of electronic court systems. And these rules were actually promulgated by the court on August 21, and they're now available on the JB website. I'm familiar with them after participating in some pieces of the drafting process. I can tell you that there is a lot to them, like all rules, and they do have intricacies here and there. And for that reason, we commend a reading of them to all lawyers in general, anyone who may have contact with the court. But particularly if your practice involves the Bangor trial courts or the BCD, you should read them carefully so that you're familiar with them when the system rolls out next month. They were carefully drafted. They were reviewed by very knowledgeable and thoughtful people inside and outside the JB. And they emerged in the form that you'll see on the website, or maybe some of you have already seen them. I'd ask for a show of hands, but that does not work these days. After a long process of development and comment, and it was both external and internal, there was reconsideration, and some of you were involved in that process, and we appreciate your participation. So in the short term, because of the phased implementation, there's an applicability situation that was, I think, reviewed very well earlier in the program, but I'm just going to mention it again. This fall, the rules, the recs are only going to apply to cases and court records that will be electronic. So that is, they must be cases in the Bangor District and Superior Courts or the Business and Consumer docket that are in the case types listed by Beth earlier in the program as going live with Odyssey in September, that were filed electronically to begin with, or they were paper filed and scanned into the electronic case file because they were pending when the system was turned on, or they were filed on paper as permitted under recs. So there's a transitional situation that is going to be important to remember when you consider the applicability of recs. So it's in two parts. Part one covers access to electronic court records, and part two is 10 rules related to the specifics of filing in the e-file Maine system, which is the Tyler electronic filing system you just saw demonstrated by Will, as it is set up for Maine, for our court. And eventually, the rules will apply to all cases in the Maine courts. They're detailed, and this slot in the program is brief, so it's not going to be an expanded discussion of any of the access or filing rules in particular. Recommend again that you read them and take your questions to the eCourts help email as they come up to you, and we'll address them. Without drilling down into the rules, I will say that not that it's the most important rule, but it is a sort of foundational rule, which is Rule 2, has the definitions, and there are 37 definitions. And if you skip right to Rule 39 because all you want to read about is fees or something like that, it's going to be hard. The rest of the rules will make a lot more sense if you're already familiar with the definitions in Rule 2 before you get too far along. So later in the program, there's going to be more discussion of the way people will see court records in the new system. But briefly, the access rules are based on the type of case involved, the nature of the information in the record, who is seeking access, and when they're seeking access. So the rules divide access into online access and access at the courthouse using a public computer that the court will provide and maintain there. The point of using case types and dividing the access is to meet the important and legitimate individual and societal needs for information about court proceedings as a public agency, while maintaining a level of control over confidential and personal information that should not be made public by the court and could be subject to abuse by illegitimate, potentially harmful, or malicious trolling and phishing types of activities that occur in the online environment, and idle snooping. So parties will be able to see their case records remotely. Everyone else will have the type of access that's allowed in the rules to the types of case records and information specified in detail in the rules. Filing will be familiar to many of you who have used online filing systems in other courts and states. As you just saw with Will's demonstration, you create your PDF filings, save them on your hard drive, log in to your account on eFile Maine, locate the case you're filing into, open a new filing, attach the documents, and typically you would choose File and Serve. And then with a click, your documents are filed and served on all the other parties. It's really quite, it's elegant, and once you get used to it, it's not hard. So that's a quick overview of recs. Again, recommend you read them, please. Also, would ask you to tell your friends in the legal community who may not be able to attend one of these programs that the rules are there and need to be understood. As I said, the court will be answering questions through the eCourts email that you saw earlier. That will be part of the materials that will follow after this presentation is over. We can also offer court personnel to assist professional organizations such as the Maine trial lawyers in your efforts to educate your members on the new rules, whether as panelists or in other capacities. So we'll be available to help roll these rules out. So now I'm going to turn it over to David Packard. Dave is the Chief Information Officer for the JB. He's got the next piece, which we'll be talking a little bit more about access to the electronic case file. Dave.
Thank you very much there, John. Up until now, we've primarily been talking about how to get data into the system via e-filing, and rightly so. We need to know how to do that by October 5th. But of course, one of the really big advantages of the electronic record, one of them, is gaining access to case information in a much easier way, remotely, any day of the week, 24/7, and in a powerful way. And we will be having two tools that will meet that purpose. One is called the Odyssey Portal, and that is actually currently active with traffic citation information. But Portal is really, it's a basic online site to search case data and to pay court fines that enables court users to search for specific cases, and that's kind of the operative word, specific cases, to see case data, pay fines, and you can also view or print the registry of actions, which was formerly known as the docket sheet. And again, really for the Odyssey Portal, specific case lookup is the purpose. It's not going to help you aggregate data, research, or analyze data. That's not its purpose. And like you indicated earlier, traffic right now, you can use this portal to search for and make payments on traffic violation cases. In terms of document downloads, you will have ability to have document downloads on this site for an interim period. That is until research comes on board, and we'll discuss that further in just a moment here. So in that interim period until research, you will be able to download documents as well. Now, research is really, research is Tyler's generic term. It's actually Research Maine in our particular implementation. So Research Maine, we're very close to completing negotiations with Tyler on this. So at this point, we're targeting having research available in the spring go live for Region 5, the Penobscot and Scotticus. But we'll implement it earlier if we can make it available at that time. Research Maine is really a sophisticated subscription-based statewide legal research when we go live for the whole state, allowing users to view case information, download documents, and much more. I don't know if any of you were able to see the demonstration of research at the January State Bar Conference, but I think many of you did and could see how powerful it would be. Now again, understanding the searching within the context of the redaction capabilities and responsibilities, that area referenced earlier, there's many things you can do with research. You can search across the state for party information. You'll be able to download case documents, and these case documents is tied to eFile Maine. And when you electronically file, the system actually does what we call an OCR, or an optical character recognition. So the text within those documents is searchable within research. So there's some very powerful combinations of searching that you can do. You can track cases and get case alerts. For instance, when someone files into a case or when a new registry of action event occurs, you can have it alert you and send you that information automatically. You can track existing or potential clients. Research can also track opposing counsel and track expert witnesses and much more. It's a very sophisticated tool. So the other thing just to keep in mind is the tool so a lot of security is built in. In fact, it's
intricately tied to the eFile Maine and the Odyssey security engine, so that we put a lot of work into ensuring that documents are appropriately available to people when they should be and aren't when they are not. And a lot of that logic is in Odyssey. That is tied to and carried to research as well. So that integration is there. And also the other advantage with research, once you register, as Will showed, to eFile Maine, that is also built into research, and so you'll be automatically registered with your same username and password for research. I think with that, I think we're about to head into the Q&A session, and I believe turn that back over to Chris Oberg. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dave. You're right, we are absolutely in the Q&A phase, and I think there are some questions that have come in through the chat log. Stephen, were you going to moderate those for us?
Chris, I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. I've got a list of questions. I've been kind of going through them as we've been, as you've all been talking.
Okay.
Just a couple of things preliminarily. Been a couple of questions on this. The video of today's presentation will be put up on the Maine Trial Lawyers YouTube page, as well as the court website. So for anyone asking where they can watch this recording or have their staff or colleagues watch it, you can access it there. The MTLA will be sending out copies of the slides to everyone who registered today. If you don't get a copy of the slides, you'd like one, please contact Steve Prince at the MTLA. Chris, question for you. The questions we have a number of questions. We're probably not going to get through all of them today. How will the court be addressing questions that are not addressed live?
That are not addressed today, right now, in this
Correct.
forum?
Correct.
Yeah. So questions that we don't get to, we've arranged for Stephen Prince to send us a log of all of the questions, and we will draft a response and work with you to get those responses published to the membership.
Okay. Is there going to be a frequently asked questions page on the court website?
Yes, there will.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, diving into some specific questions. I assume that there are going to be additional trainings next spring.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Dates and times not certain, but we are planning to coordinate those as well.
And we will be getting additional trainings out this fall. Both the MTLA and the Maine State Bar Association and the court are going to be pushing out those schedules. So if you wanted somebody to attend a live, or you wanted to attend another live session, there will be additional training sessions. A question that came in during the e-filing process: will there be live court assistance? I assume during business hours, but will there be a chat feature of somebody or a telephone feature if somebody has a problem?
Yeah, I'm sure Will has a lot to say on this, but when you're actually using the filing system there, Tyler has a very mature support platform. So not only do they have a telephone number that you can call into, a hotline to get assistance, you can do so. I think in general, the hours run from either start at 7 or 8 in the day, and also end around 7 or 8 in the evening. I think that the support hours actually depend on the type of support you're looking for, whether it's phone. There's also a chat feature that you can use, and also an online help. So Will, I don't know if you have anything else to say about that?
Sure. No, that was exactly it. And then there's also an email address that you can contact support with as well. Yes, during business hours during the week, and I believe on Saturdays as well, our support staff is available. Maybe in limited numbers on Saturdays, but available as well then.
Mm-hmm. I would also add that that's on the technical side, but on the process side, you've heard us earlier talk about the new eCourts help. We are organizing our processes around making sure that we're there to respond and manage to any request for help that's coming in. And so, obviously that, that's, process questions are limited, to, to business hours, but we will have that there available as well for the process side.
So you mentioned some support on Saturdays, and not to, I'm sure there'll be attorneys filing things at all times of the, day and night and all days of the week. When is the deadline met for filing? When it's submitted to the court, or when the court has accepted the filing?
Jonathan, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, this is going to be a very general answer because there are a lot of specifics involved in that kind of question, Chris, but generally the filing date will relate back if the filing is accepted. If the filing is rejected, there's a procedure in the rules for resubmission, and where it goes from there, it depends exactly on, what path it follows through whether it's rejected or successfully resubmitted, and there are pathways through to determine the file date.
Okay. And those are detailed in the new rules.
I'm sorry, that was broken up for me, Chris.
I apologize. So, and those pathways are detailed in the new rules?
In the regs, correct.
Great. So again, everyone should be reviewing those new rules.
Correct.
If another question, if a pro se client who does not utilize e-filing hires an attorney, is that attorney required to go back and e-file previously filed documents?
Good question.
So that's I'm just going to say that sounds like a process situation to me, and the rules contemplate anyway that paper file documents are all going to be scanned in. You'll see in the rule that, in fact, the electronic case record is the official file. So that's the rules side of it. I know you were going to say.
Well, I was just going to add quickly that when we get something in paper from a pro se and it's scanned, that like Jonathan was saying, that becomes the electronic file. So it's in Odyssey already as an electronic file. Subsequent filings, perhaps, that the attorney would be involved with, those would go through e-filing.
But the attorney wouldn't have to go back and
that's correct. That's correct, because it's already the electronic file.
Great. Just a question about getting signatures on documents, and I'm going to just kind of half answer this myself. I assume that there are going to be detailed rules in recs about signatures. Jonathan?
Yep, just finding my unmute. Yes, that's correct. There is a single rule related to signatures.
And I think probably in the more granular training sessions that would be addressed there as well. Just going through the questions. Are there going to be any changes to the rules for service of complaints?
Broad answer, no. Complaints are still required to be served under Rule 4.
Okay. With regards to the firm admin, can the firm admin be a non-lawyer?
Yes.
What is the time frame for implementation of e-filing for the law court?
So with the law court, we are really positioning to bring the law court online once all the trial courts have been implemented. So they will be brought on towards the final phase.
So the next question, of course, you're going to be able to guess: is there a schedule for the rest of the state courts?
There is, and Will had a slide of it earlier, but we are looking at doing this as a phased implementation approach. So obviously we're starting with Region 5, and then following the spring when Region 5 is fully online, we are going to take what we learn from that experience and work with our oversight group to figure out what is the next region to be picked up as part of the phase. And we do hope to do those in 6 to 8 month increments. But we are also looking at, is it not one region? Maybe it's 2 regions or 3 regions that we do. We're really looking at ways to accelerate our implementation. And so all of those are just discussions that we're looking forward to have once we get past Region 5 and discussions we'll have with our oversight group.
Sorry.
I was just going to add, just in a generic sense, so we plan to be completed with all trial implementations, trial court implementations by the end of 2022. But Chris said we're going to be entertaining other options that might be able to shorten that schedule.
That was my next question, Dave. Thank you for answering what the anticipated date for 100% e-filing was. So, for all the pending civil matters that are currently pending, as the rollouts become effective, will the previously filed documents be scanned and uploaded into the e-filing system by the court, or are attorneys going to be required to refile things?
I'll take this one. They are currently being scanned, so everything that was filed prior to October 5th will be scanned by the court personnel and attached to the case in Odyssey.
Will cover letters be required?
For electronic filing, or?
Correct. I can guess, but I'm not actually sure.
That's one I haven't thought of.
I hadn't thought of it either.
Let's take
Someone
that
asked
under
it.
advisement.
We'll get you an answer.
Thank you.
So the October 5th for the business and consumer docket, is that going to be for all business and consumer docket cases, or just for consumer and business docket cases in Penobscot County?
All business and consumer docket cases statewide.
Going through a couple of these questions, and I'm just going to look now through the rest of the questions. We've had a number of questions come in since we started the question and answer. What is the turnaround time on a filing being accepted?
We would expect it to be 24 hours at the next business day, so within one business day.
And are there going to be tutorials to show how to monitor and remove metadata? Or is that going to be part of the more granular presentations?
Will, you want to start with that one?
Sure. So I guess, is that question kind of pointed towards the redaction tool?
Correct.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. It depends on if redaction is on the webinar or not, and I'm not sure if it will be yet. In the spring, it definitely will be, but with this fall implementation, I'm not sure.
Okay. And will there be a written manual available, I assume, for download?
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's individual user guides, firm admin user guides, and they're actually all available now on the eFile Maine website.
A couple questions. These are pretty detailed questions. If we use a firm payment account, will payments be associated with cases in a payment processing system in a way that is visible to the admin? And I think they're asking, can the admin go in and, when it's time for the accounting process, can they go in and review that? If I understand that question correctly.
I think I understand the question. So I guess, can the firm admin see which payment account was used?
I think for which cases and can go through and see an overall firm accounting based upon the login, I assume.
Okay.
Maybe I just butchered my understanding of the question. So
Okay. You should be able to, if I understand the correct question correctly, yes, you should be able to track what, I guess, which payment methods were used for various envelopes.
so is the filing? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Will, I think what they're getting at it, it's the end of the month or the beginning of the month, and I'm getting ready to put out all my invoices for all the services that we've done. And how do I go into the e-file Maine and look at all the charges that have been assessed to my payment card so that I can in turn bill the clients for those?
I see. Okay. Yeah. So the firm admin will have visibility on the filing history for all attorneys, and so they'll be able to go in and see what was assessed for that month, be able to filter, by that date range or whatever may work best, and then be able to reconcile that to their bank statement.
Mm-hmm.
Just a general question. If there is a system failure, I guess the question is, what are the redundancies? What are the plans, and what steps will be taken just to protect things if there's a outage in the system? I mean, what do you do? Do you go back to the old filing system, or what happens?
Will has told us that there will be no outages.
We have that recorded now. It's a definite promise.
No, it's a really important consideration for us. We are talking about contingency plannings, not just for a system outage with file and serve, but what happens if we're in the middle of the court? We're gonna have judicial officers on the bench that are looking at the equivalent of an e-reader or of a Kindle of a case file. And if the power goes out or we lose network connectivity, what does that mean? And how are we going to deal with that? So we are contingency planning, and we will come up with a plan that is going to have to address what happens if e-file Maine is not available. And the likely conclusion that we could draw is that we would have to go back to old school paper filing. But that hasn't been set in stone yet, and it's all part of our contingency planning discussions that we're having.
I wanted to add that the e-filing database repository application is hosted by Tyler in their data centers. And they do this for, I guess, about almost a third of the country is e-filing under. So they have, as they show in their contract, they have a highly redundant, secure data system infrastructure that they've established. And that's what we're leveraging here.
Thank you. And I think I think the real question is, you're getting ready to file that response for motion for summary judgment. It's, due, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, and you go in and the system's down. What do you do?
Well, that is a process, I guess, we have to nail down, and we can regroup on that a little bit. But again, you are able to get something in the electronic file via scanning as well. I mean, if all the branches, if everything's closed, if all the courts are closed, that may be difficult. But under unique circumstances, I guess we'll need to discuss further. Scanning can get things into the electronic file as well.
Okay. Just going through some additional questions that have come in. Can there be more than one firm admin? For instance, a firm with multiple offices?
I believe there's only one firm admin available, but I can double check and follow up on that.
Here's a question. Are the civil rules being revised to clarify such things as whether discovery requests and responses are filed with the court, or if only the notice of discovery filing is submitted?
Well, I can just say that I'm aware of a very significant effort that's underway now to harmonize all of the rules, all of our court rules that apply, that would be affected by the implementation of the electronic system. I don't know about the specifics. I'm sorry, I don't have that on the particular issue your questioner raises there, but there is a comprehensive review underway.
I think the anticipation there is that as it rolls out, obviously in the regions where e-filing is taking place, if there's a conflict between the Rex rules and the civil rules or criminal rules, that in places where it is deployed, that the Rex rules would govern. But in the process, this rollout's going to take a period of time. We're looking at the civil rules, the criminal rules, all rules to look for possible points of conflict or redundancy. And at some point, there will be a massive reworking of the civil rules and criminal rules to reconcile them. But it's going to be on a piecemeal basis. But if someone runs into a conflict between the two in a place where the CMS and e-filing is up and running, the rules that would govern would be the Rex rules and e-filing rules in that circumstance.
Another question that came in, I assume this is going to be for Tyler. Will users have API level access to the backend DBMS, or is data retrieval strictly limited to the Odyssey interface?
I think I understood that question. The documents will be available on those public portals, such as Portal and Research. I think, Chris, do you think I understand that?
Alan, it sounds like there's someone in the audience that is looking to see, hey, can I connect my firm's system with either e-file Maine data or portal data? And and APIs is a technology that we can use to connect systems together. And at this point, I'll say that Tyler does have in the system they do have APIs available, but that is something that would require a whole lot more discussion as we move forward. So we would look forward to those opportunities.
One thing I would add, I don't know if this is the perspective of the question or not, but when someone gets searches for documents, for instance, within research, and we're live with it, it's going to grab the latest, if they have the appropriate access privilege for that document, it will grab that document from Odyssey. So the latest and greatest would be what would be available. So I don't know if that was the bent of the question, but it is making a call the Odyssey database and getting the latest document. So research, when we go live with research in the implementation mode, would be the most recent copy available within Odyssey of that document. I'm not sure if that was the direction of the question or not, but.
Okay, another question. When I locate the e-filing on the court website, it is tucked into the traffic violations button. Will there be a new e-file button shortly? It's a very specific question.
I guess, is the question about the main site, the e-file main site? I'm going in.
I believe so. I think that's one we probably will become self-evident as we move forward with the implementation and get a little more detail on this. But the question, will older forms be rejected as they are now in probate court?
Jonathan, is that addressed in the rules? Do you know?
It is. Court forms are required under the rules. So I'm not sure that answers the question, in every instance. But it is in Rex. You are required, if there's a court form, obviously, you're required to use the current version.
Okay. Just another question. Somebody had missed the maximum file size for uploads. Is it 35 or 50 megabytes? I think you had said it's 50, isn't it?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Great. Is a filing history for the firm or for the individual attorney?
It's for the individual attorney. When they log in, they'll see their filing history, but the firm admin will be able to see the entire firm's history.
Great. We're we're getting near the end of the presentation now. Do any of the panelists wish to add anything that, or provide any further answers to the questions that have been asked so far?
Chris? Yeah, I just wanted to mention, as we were discussing some of the other topics, the issue related to what happens when the system is down. There is a rule, it's Rule 35F. It talks about unavailability of the EFS. You can get relief from the court.
Great.
That's good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. There's a couple of questions left, but we'll go ahead and forward those to the court, and they can answer those, and they'll be getting the answers out.
Okay.
If no one else from the panel has anything to add, I'm going to go ahead and ask Justice Mead if he has any further closing remarks.
No, I want to thank again the MTLA for making the platform available. I'm actually looking at the questions here, and I'm seeing one that asked, maybe this one blew by me and I didn't hear it, asked about the format of the documents to be filed, whether you can simply scan PDFs or whether it has to be an electronically converted PDF. And I'll have our experts speak to that because I think it makes a big difference. I think I know the answer, but I'll hand it off to Will or Chris about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would just say that when PDFs are sent to Odyssey, our file and serve, our eFile Maine, and it is converted, is OCR'd at that point. So it's an optical text recognition that occurs at that point. So it's built into the eFile Maine when you load it into eFile Maine. Will, I don't know if you have an additional information on that.
That's yes, as long as it's some sort of PDF format. It doesn't necessarily have to be text readable to upload into file and serve. It can be just scanned in, and it would be permissible that way as well.
Thanks. I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody. But again, I want to thank Chris and the MTLA. This is going to be an adventure for all of us. I know everyone feels a little challenged by it. We do too. But once we get over this hump, it's going to be great. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you to all of our panelists. It's been very informative, and I look forward to having future presentations as we get down into the nitty gritty, as it were. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Mics are still live.